Without the ones like you working tirelessly to keep things running, everything would suddenly stop.
My own world of make-believe. Kids screaming in the cradles, profanities. I see the world through ice covered in ink and bleach. Cross out the ones who heard my cries and watched me weep. I love everything. Fire spreading all around my room. My world's so bright, it's hard to breathe, but that's alright. Hush. Take my eyes open to force reality. Why can't you just let me eat my weight in glee? I live inside my own world of make-believe. Kids screaming in their cradles, profanities. Some days I feel skinnier than all the other days. Sometimes I can't tell if my body belongs to me. I love everything. Fire spreading all around my room. My world's so bright, it's hard to breathe, but that's alright. Hush. Content, hold your breath and feel the tension. Devils hide behind redemption. Honesty is a one-way gate to hell. I wanna taste consumption. Breathe faster to waste oxygen. Hear the children sing aloud. It's music till the wick burns out. Be carefree lately, yeah. Just picking up daisies. Got one too many quarters in my pockets. Counting like the four-leaf clovers in my locket. Untied laces, yeah. Just tripping on daydreams. Got dirty little lullabies playing on repeat. Might as well just ride around the nursery and count sheep.
What up? Apologies for being a little tardy. It has been an aggressive morning, and in a few moments, I will explain to you why that is. I am Jeremy Green of ESPN Radio Asheville and the Sportsocracy and NFLDraft.net and a whole mess of other shit that, well, we'll be telling you about that as time rolls on. But it is just a handful of days to the 2025 NFL Scouting Combine, and I'll be there. And I already saw a question in the chat about Tank. I believe it was Ches Johnson that asked that. Tank seems to be in better spirits. I have not heard an official on if he has been discharged from the hospital or if he is still there. I do know that they checked out the foot yesterday. They found the cause of the problem. They eradicated it, and they were hopeful that all of the things were going to improve over the course of the next few days. So it does appear that Tank is okay. He is still a DMP for the Combine. And at the end of this here program, which this will last about an hour, I will update you on our plans for the Combine and what we will be doing there. And it is super exciting, and it is why I was a little tardy getting to this here live stream. Today we're going to talk about players at the Combine, guys to watch. It's something I've been meaning to do for like the last 3 of these, and then I start answering questions, and next thing you know, I don't even remember where I started. I enjoy doing this kind of content. I'm also incredibly ADHD, and it's tough for me because I see a pigeon, and the next thing I know, how the hell did I get here? So, but today we're going to talk about the combine. Combine invites are out. We have the official list of players that we will be seeing work out at the 2025 NFL Scouting Combine. We're going to start with quarterbacks. The Laurier kid, the Canadian, he was not invited. I would say he was the biggest snub. I hate this part of the process solely because kids get invited to the Senior Bowl, and then we've already done the voting for who should be at the Combine, and guys get left off, and it's Willie Lampkin. I am officially the chair of the Get Willie Lampkin to the Combine Committee because I think it's absolute fuckery that he was as good at the Senior Bowl as he was, and he was left off. But we'll talk about that with offensive linemen here in just a little bit. So just looking at the quarterback list, there's a handful of guys here that really don't matter much. Graham Mertz, I don't think there's much to him. I think he's a guy. Max Brosmer from Minnesota, Brady Cook. Those guys are just guys. The guys I'm really interested in, I do not see any way that Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders throws here in Indianapolis. I don't know about Jackson Dart. He has elevated his stock to such a point. I wouldn't be shocked if he packed it in. I've heard him as high as 7 to the Jets. I don't think it will go that way. I think he falls somewhere more into the 20s. But the talk of him winding up with my Jets is very, very loud. So just something to keep under your hat, something to know that I don't know that Dart will throw. As for the guys that I know will throw, the ones that I'm really interested in, Tyler Shuck, I've been very open about I really believe in the talent with Tyler Shuck. I think he's a really good player. He's got some huge medical red flags. But him in this is the definition of a Tyler Shuck scenario where he can just come out and throw darts, and he's got an absolute cannon of an arm. So for me, he's the guy I look to rise up boards after the Combine. If there were two others that I would say keep a really close eye on, it obviously would be Quinn Ewers. We've talked about it through the entire process. He is a guy to keep to keep good eyes on. And the other is Will Howard. Will Howard has a lot of hype right now to possibly go as high as the second round. I do not think that that's going to end up happening, but it would not stun me if it did. We have our first super chat of the show. Always know that you can super chat at any time. I will interrupt what I'm talking about to chuck your super chat out there. And this one is from Red Sea. He said, actively inside of machinery listening to the show. And we appreciate you, Red Sea. We also appreciate you sharing out the Cardinals mock draft to all of your Discord channels. I've had several comments of people that were talking about they watched it because of you. A lot of really nice things. Always love Cardinal fans. As a matter of fact, I love damn near everybody that comments on our shit, minus one douchebag that knows exactly who he is, and he's been doing it for 4 years. So I've decided I'm not going to let that. It never bothered me. It just irked me because I like getting the last word, and I've realized on the internet, you don't ever get the last word. So, and I will address comments as I see them. I cannot promise you I'll see them all because I got a lot of stuff happening on my screens right now. But I do see one from Common Sense Ain't Common asking me, Shallow Sanders and Kyron Lacey did not get invites to the Combine. Do you know why? Kyron Lacey is because of existing criminal litigation against him. The NFL has been very steadfast on this over the years. When a guy they let the process play out, but they're not going to let that process play out at the Combine. They're not going to let a kid like that take this over. So that's why Kyron Lacey did not get invited. Shiloh Sanders surprised me a little bit more. We're going to talk about defensive guys tomorrow, but I'll be honest with you. My line for Shiloh Sanders was R.J. Mickens. R.J. Mickens is the son of former New York Jet Ray Mickens, who, friend of the show, and he a dog. I felt like if Mickens got invited, which he did, that I would start looking for, were there any safeties that were really substantially behind him? And I've got a couple that are, but I am a little shocked that Shiloh didn't get invited. I think that falls more into his projection is just so low. I mean, I barely have a draftable grade on him. So I'm not stunned they didn't invite him. I thought there was a good chance that he would be one of the last safeties invited, but he wasn't. And, obviously his was nothing to do with postseason accolades or anything like that because he was at the Shrine Bowl. So I was more surprised by Shiloh than I was really anybody other than Willie Lampkin. I figured they would find a way to get Willie in there after how good he was at the Senior Bowl. But Kyron Lacey, his all ties into the criminal prosecution with him. Whew, this has been, if I seem like I'm dragging ass, I apologize. It's because I am. I have been trying to get all of these mock drafts recorded by Friday to put them out over the weekend because I want every team to be represented by the time I leave for Indianapolis on Monday. That reminds me, I'm going to put a comment in the chat about we have an exciting announcement at the end of the show. Apologies, I can't type and text at the same time. I think anybody that's watched this for any extended period of time probably already knows that. Because I will either type what I was going to say or I will say what I was going to type. All right, so quarterbacks, that's really where you're at. I think the line of demarcation is really with Tyler Shuck and Will Howard, who I have right on top of each other. I'm not as high on Will Howard as other people seem to be. I've played this game too many times with the quarterback that has a good bowl game or has, in Howard's case, has a really good playoff, and then all of a sudden now they're on the draft radar. I have a whole graveyard of quarterbacks that I've watched do that. And if you're looking for examples, I'll just go over the course of the last few years. I don't grade anybody out in a vacuum. It's 3 years out or further. Kenny Pickett, that last year at Pittsburgh, no bowl games or anything like that. Desmond Ridder is one that I specifically was thinking of, that he had led Cincinnati to the playoff. They went up against Alabama. They got their shit pushed in, and yet somehow he wound up being the second quarterback drafted in that class, which didn't make any sense to me. Still doesn't make any sense to me. Just looking through the years. Jacob Eason is one that I remember. He led Washington to the playoff, and Easton just had an absolute cannon of an arm. He just had a 10-cent brain. And so it was just completely disregarded. And I think that's what's happening with Will Howard. You're disregarding all of these years of tape that we have on him just solely because of what he did at the end of the year with a very good Ohio State team with a lot of talent around him. Pissed off Browns fan sent a picture to the chat. Give me a minute. I don't know where my phone is, so I will send a Facebook message to my wife of, "Hey, where the hell's my phone?" So give me just a minute, and I'll touch back on that. All right, we're going to move into running backs. Running back is an interesting position for me just simply because of how deep it is. If you look at how many guys are invited this year, it's a pretty standard number. But as I go up and down, I don't really see many guys that I go, well, he's not getting drafted. From Ulysses Bentley, the fourth out of Ole Miss, I think he did enough in that last year to justify his being here. He's one of the lower-rated running backs that I have. Montrell Johnson from Florida, not a guy that I'm super, super high on, but I still think he could be drafted. Kyle Monagai from Rutgers is a guy that I'm not high on, but our buddy, the sideline scout, has him in his top 10, which to me is, I can't wrap my brain around that. But he does. The ones that I'm really looking forward to personally, Breshard Smith, anytime we talk about running backs, that's always going to come up. A former wide receiver at Miami that converted to running back to SMU was super electric. And I think he could make a name for himself at the combine because I think he's going to run really, really fast, maybe the fastest in the class. and you're missing this year. I don't think there is that high end Xavier Worthy like 4-2-1 guy that's going to take over the class. But I do think you're going to have a bunch of guys in the low 4.3s that they'll kind of share credit. And that's, for me, I enjoy combines like that more than what we had last year, which is Xavier Worthy runs a 4.2-1 right in front of us, and Tank and I look at each other and go, well, that's the only thing we're going to talk about for about the next week. And it was. Then he wound up going in the first round, and there were a lot of really good combine performances that went completely ignored. So I like classes like this better. There were a couple of guys that did not get invited to the combine, specifically a receiver from Baylor that's not any good, but he's really freaking fast. And there was another one. I made notes of this, but I'm found my phone because telemarketer's calling me. Go away. I see two questions in the chat about Anthony Belton. Is there any chance that he goes in the first? That's from Vincent Collier. Patrick Holt said, I saw he got invited to the combine. What are my thoughts on him? Look, he was fantastic at the Senior Bowl. Why am I calling the telemarketer back? My phone's possessed by the devil. But pissed off Browns fan, I did find my phone. So I'll check that thing in the Discord here in just a second. I like Anthony Belton a lot. I don't know. The first round seems far off for me. I had him in the third in my latest mock draft, and I'm not going to lie to you. They've all run together to such a point that I can't remember what team it was. I know it was one that I did recently. But it is not. Jacksonville. It was Jacksonville Jaguars. I had him at 88. That's too low. I will tell you 88 is too low. He will go higher than that. I would say he falls somewhere around that 50 line because a lot of teams looked at him and went, damn, that's a ready-made offensive tackle that can go that can come in and play right away, and that is very, very intriguing at this time. So I would say Anthony Belton falls somewhere into that 50-ish range. But in terms of the other running backs that I'm looking at in the combine, Woody Marks is a name to keep an eye on. He did not distinguish himself in the preseason or the postseason games. He was supposedly at the Senior Bowl, but I swear to God, I never saw him. So I don't know exactly what happened there, but Woody Marks is a guy to keep an eye on. Damian Martinez is a player that a lot of people around the industry like a lot. My my little favorites are Rocket Sanders. I think he can be an absolute dog in the NFL. I like Jarquez Hunter from Auburn. I'm really looking forward to seeing his workout and what he does. And Bashel Tootin from Virginia Tech, another guy that I am really, really, really high on. Also want to see how fast Ollie Gordon II runs. I think that's going to determine a lot in terms of what you see in terms of his draft stock. Randy Lutz said, felt like Belton should have won Offensive Tackle of the Week at the Senior Bowl, not Connerly. He looked great. I think that vote was probably really close. But Connerly, outside of that one rep, was really, really good. So I got that they gave it to Connerly. I probably would have voted for Belton as well, but it would have been close. And Randy Lutz also with a shout-out to the great nicknames of this running back class with Rocket Sanders and Bashel Tootin, who goes by Tugboat, which is a really good one. Colin Green said, I'm good on any Auburn players, not because I'm a Bama fan, but because they all suck. Yeah, but they all crush it at the Senior Bowl for some reason, and so we talk about them every single year. Every year I've been to the Senior Bowl, which is 2, and I made it sound really pretty right there, but it's 2. Every year there have been like 3 Auburn guys that we all went, damn, he was really good. Yeah, he's sleeping in his fucking bed. So that doesn't hurt. But this year, several Auburn guys that Eugene Asante was the one I was really intrigued by this year. If there's any other running backs anybody wants to talk about, feel free to chuck those in the chat. Not really. LaQuint Allen, I want to keep an eye on him. Jaden Blue from Texas. These are all guys that I think they could help their stock, but you're basically just moving out of I'll say late day 3 into the higher side of day 3. I'm going to skip down to tight ends. This is a smaller positional group, but it's a really freaking interesting one because I could see a path that every tight end that got invited to the combine, outside of maybe 2, get drafted. And that's a really high hit rate. And as the tight end whisperer, I'd be remiss if I didn't point out that, well, it's just awesome. It's awesome that everybody else is figuring out how important the tight end is, and that I'm not just a lunatic that loves the tight end position. But looking at the list, I'm really intrigued by Oronde Gadsden II. I think he could blow it up. The thing that makes me one of the things that I noticed when they put out the list is that Oronde Gadsden II is running with the tight ends, not the receivers. That tells me that he and the NFL believe he's going to be a move tight end in the NFL, and I agree with that. I started seeing people listing him as a wide receiver, and I don't like that nearly as much. I want him to play actual tight end in that kind of Evan Ingram role, excuse me. I mixed up Evan Ingram and Jimmy Graham. I want him in that role where he's not asked to block, but he does just go out there and be a mismatch and a speed nightmare for smaller safeties, for slower linebackers. I think he could be a third-round pick, and I would be totally fine with it. I did not have him in my last 3-round mock draft, but he would have gone in round 4. Other guys to watch, Harold Fannin. Not a great week at the Senior Bowl. He really needs to help himself here with a faster time. And I think he could very much do that. He's another player. This really lays out nicely for him. It lays out nicely for Elijah Arroyo. I think Elijah Arroyo could sneak into the second round with a good week this week. Pardon me for a second while I check the Discord. Let's see. Oh, yeah. So what pissed off Browns fan put in the chat was there are a lot of people that are getting their information on James Pierce and his red flags from Twitter. I don't ever say a player has red flags until I have had somebody credible say it to me. And when I say credible, I don't just mean somebody that's been right in the past. I mean somebody that could actually know the nitty-gritty and not be catching it as secondhand information. Look, people like us, and I'm not saying I'm anything special, but I do have a pretty good number of people that watch for draft content from me. We can really hurt a guy just by saying he has red flags, and I feel like people use that term way too loosely. Everything I've got on James Pierce is maybe a little weed, maybe a lot of weed, don't know which one, don't really care either way. And he had a bad interaction with cops at a traffic stop. Other than that, I got nothing that I can verify. So I don't give 2 shits. I see our buddy Great North Sports in the chat. Hope he'll hang around for our announcement at the end of this here program. No, he's a busy guy. But we will have an announcement at the end of the show about the combine that I'm very much looking forward to. Continuing on with tight ends. This is a class I really like. I'm looking at Mitchell Evans. These are my own selfish. I want to see how these guys do because they've become guys that I really, really like. Mitchell Evans from Notre Dame, Tommy Fadone II from Nebraska, Oronde Gadsden, who I had already mentioned, Luke Lachey. I saw a comment about him in the chat. The medical on him is going to be a big deal. He's been hurt a lot. But we have a really good history of Iowa tight ends, and I think he is, in terms of sheer talent, he could be as good as any of them. It's all about the medical. And then Mason Taylor. Mason Taylor could solidify himself into the second round with a good week at the combine. And that's your tight ends. We have a slew of offensive linemen. If there is any offensive linemen specifically that people want to ask about, chuck those in the chat. I'm going to go through the chat and answer the questions here momentarily, but I want to get through the wide receivers, and then we'll get to some questions. Let's see. Wide receivers. The list is really, really long. And I see a lot of these guys as draftable. The question is who ends up not being drafted. Guys that I'm looking at to have really, really good weeks. Kyle Williams, the kid out of Washington State. Originally, I had heard he was not going to be invited to this, and I was super pissed. But he is on the official NFL press release that he is invited to the Combine. Savion Williams, a guy that we did not get to see at the Senior Bowl, super interesting prospect, plays running back, plays wide receiver, and he's 6'5". Not a great route runner, but I will be really interested to see what he does in Indianapolis. Arian Smith may run the fastest time of anybody at the Combine, and if he does, he will be the player this year that we start talking about, hey, could he go in the first round? It'll be dumb because he won't, but you will start hearing that when he runs a 4.28, and I think there's entirely possible. Dante Thornton Jr. from Tennessee, I love the tape on him, and I don't know why nobody else is. I hear no one talk about him. And I think he is absolutely intoxicating to watch, how he could take over games. He didn't do it constantly, but the talent is very obviously there. And I think we have a preconceived notion about Tennessee receivers coming out of that Josh Heupel offense. I think that pushes him down. But I think he could absolutely be a steal in later rounds of this draft. Isaac Tesla, who I fell in love with at the Senior Bowl, he was just fantastic. Big-bodied receiver, really fluid. I want to see how he works out. Jalen Royals, kid used to be a running back, so very easily could be in that Deebo Samuel type role. I want to see how he moves in the agility drills. Not so much, I don't so much care about the 40 time. I mean, I will watch it, but not overly lost in it. Nick Nash, the leading receiver in all of college football this past year from San Jose State, doesn't project as a great wide receiver in the NFL, but I am curious to see how he runs through the drills. We've had a few of these guys over the years where they were really productive in college, but between the body type and the level of competition, different things like that, they don't necessarily project as highly. So I'll be interested to see him. Ted McMillan, I do believe he will run the 40. I had somebody ask me that the other day. I do believe he will run in Indianapolis. I have not confirmed that, but I do believe he will run, and I'm really curious to see what he runs. Tez Johnson, another guy that could absolutely blow out the Combine with a really fast time. I think he could start getting into that first round discussion if he can have a time that starts with a 4.2 blank. And I don't really care what the last number is. Torrey Horton from Colorado State's a guy that I really like personally. I want to see how fast Trey Harris runs because that's been one of the biggest knocks on him is he doesn't have straight line speed. If he were to come in and run, I think even in the low 4.4s, especially if he got into the high 4.3s, which I don't think he will, but if he did, then you could start having back into the first round discussions about him. Matthew Golden could run really fast. If he does, then we start talking about him at the end of the first round. Luther Burden, a guy I want to see how he runs in the drills. I think he's going to blow it out. I don't see a number one receiver there. Isaiah Bond could have the fastest time here in Indianapolis. And then Jack Betch. I want to see how fast he can run. Okay. I'm going to go into the chat and try to answer these questions as quickly as I can. If it's not a question, I'm not going to touch on it because you guys were talking before I showed up. So, GG Gambling asked, how is Tank doing? It appears that he's doing reasonably well. I do not have any information as to whether he has been discharged. We have not. Well, we've texted back and forth a little bit this morning, but no direct talk. So I don't know if he is out of the hospital yet, but I know he was doing better yesterday, and it sounded like he's doing better this morning. Let's see. A lot of talk about wide receivers before I got in here. There's the shallow Sanders question. A lot of comments about Kyron Lacey playing in the prison league from the longest yard. Eat and sleep football. It's very hard for me to believe the Titans skipped 2 generational talents to take a quarterback, but then again, it is the Titans. That's where I'm at. Abdul Carter is becoming almost a foregone conclusion to me to the Titans at 1. I think that Travis Hunter is going to be a foregone conclusion to Cleveland by the time it's all said and done. Just so because I think we're all going to convene in Indianapolis and go, hey, does anybody actually believe in these quarterbacks? And when everybody in the room just kind of gets uncomfortable and starts shuffling their feet, we'll go, okay, it's not just me. Mark Matlock, with outstanding combines, could 3 or even 4 running backs go in round 1? For me, I think the high side on running backs in round 1 is 2. I'm confident Ashton Genty will go in round 1. I think there is a pretty good possibility that Amarian Hampton goes in round 1. I don't really see anybody else that, I mean, you'd have to be special. And I don't know that there's anybody that has that in them. I'm going to look at my running back rankings here. Caleb Johnson, the maturity issues will keep him out of round 1. Cam Scattaboo, I don't think he's going to run particularly fast in a straight line, so I think that could push him down. And then you get into like the Ohio State guys, Ollie Gordon. I don't see any of them in the first round. If there was a guy that could low-key threaten it, it would be Breshard Smith, because teams could fall in love with the versatility of he used to be a wide receiver, and now he's a running back. So I will say 2 is my high side. 3 would be an absolute miracle, and I would be stunned if we got to 4. Best green dot linebacker in this draft. That's from DNA Tooth Podcast. I think the best talent of a green dot is Jeffrey Bassa. I think the best green dot in terms of being a guy that can get everything lined up is probably Demetrius Knight from South Carolina. Another guy that it would rank really highly on he would be a good green dot would be Jack Kaiser out of Notre Dame. I don't think Jahad Campbell is a natural middle linebacker. I don't think he's a natural green dot. I think he's an edge guy. And the more I've thought about that, the more I have started to warm to him of stopping looking at him as an off-ball linebacker and starting to look at him as an edge rusher. Tim Raymond asked thoughts on Ollie Gordon going in the second. I would have no problem with it whatsoever. But as Andreas Pinckney said, he would have to crush the combine to go in the second. I don't know that he'd have to crush it. I have him right around 75 right now, so I think he'd have to have a good week. I think if he has a great week, now we can start talking about him as maybe even the 3rd running back off the board, because there are buts with practically every other running back in this class. Randy Lutz with a take on Josh Connerly about him continuously getting beat. I'll tell you, I was there. I watched I can't tell you I saw every snap of Josh Connerly. I saw him get beat one time by Mike Green playing right tackle. Everything I saw of him at left tackle, he was awesome. And that's the position he's going to play. The thing you have to remember about the Senior Bowl is that they try to make guys uncomfortable. So they start putting them in positions they've never played before, and sometimes positions that they never will play. Josh Connerly's never going to play guard in the NFL. Josh Connerly probably never plays right tackle in the NFL unless he goes to a team that's already got one, and they try to cross-train him there. So I don't particularly care that he got blown up at right tackle at the Senior Bowl. For me, I look more at what he did well in playing on the left side, because that's what he's going to do in the league. But I do agree with what you said. And the reason that he said that right there is because he was talking about Belton being the offensive lineman of the week in Mobile. He did not have those things. Connerly did. So I do understand the point that you're making right there. Andreas Pinckney talking about Luke Lachey and the medical. The medical is huge for him. Adam Vincic, please let me know if I said that correctly. I believe that I did. Do I think the Steelers go defensive line in round 1? I could easily see it. I think it's more likely in round 2, and the reason is that the pieces that I think they would be after fit better into, and I got to see exactly what pick it is Pittsburgh has there. 53. I have them taking Landon Jackson from Arkansas, who I think is an awesome fit for them. And between him and Keanu Benton and Cameron Hayward. I think you've got pieces there for the upcoming year and for the future. I would love to see them have I don't know exactly how I want to say this because I don't want to say a project zero tech, but a guy that they could develop over time. I feel like they've been missing that really nasty zero tech, and there are a couple of guys in this class that I really like in terms of ability to do that. Jordan Phillips, Jamari Caldwell, excuse me. There's a lot of names on the screen. And Cameron Jackson are the three that I was specifically thinking of that I would really like them to take in later rounds. I don't necessarily think they'll go D-line in round one. I've had Luther Burden to them for about as long as I can remember because the fit just makes so much sense. But if they were to take a defensive lineman, I think Shamar Stewart fits with them really nicely. I think Hurting for a Skirtin fits quite nicely with them. By the way, if anybody can make me a shirt that says that for the D-line workout days, I will totally wear it. So just because I would love Nick Skirtin to see me wearing that, and then we become best friends and do karate in the garage. Let's see. Chiefs Nation UK said, don't be shocked if the Chiefs draft a tight end. I have heard that a lot this year, especially until we definitively know on Travis Kelce. If something were to happen with Kelce and he didn't come back, then it would become a huge area of need. And now we're talking about a guy that they take in the first, second round. I could see them taking one of a Mitchell Evans type in the mid rounds as the replacement for Travis Kelce a year or two down the line. Gigi Gambling asked, if I can ask, what's more credible? An author who says he has red flags, but sources people, or someone who says people, but sources people, or someone who says people say he has red flags. I'm not sure what they are, but overall, this player is this. I'm not going to lie to you. I don't put any credence into anything people say about red flags unless they have worn a badge for an extended period of time, they work directly with a team, and it's off the record, or they can source me an event that they can actually track me back down to. I think a lot of times you start hearing red flags, and I'm not going to lie to you, I think this is part of it with James Pierce. I think you get teams that fall in love with a guy, and they start floating this shit. And you can call me a conspiracy theorist. I keep my tinfoil hat in my desk right here. I have thought that for a long time because there have been guys that fall based on these bullshit, off the field, red flags, whatever. And then we never have any of these problems when they get to the league. Just throwing it out there. Also, how many guys can you name in the last 10 years that have run themselves out of the league because they were dickheads? That's a real short list. It's basically a piece of paper with Alden Smith's name on it. Justin Blackman's name's on the back because I said in the last 10 years, and that was longer than that. Andreas Pinckney, this center class is gross. That's some hard tape to watch. I agree with you wholeheartedly. Phew, I'm telling you, sleep deprivation is real, boys and girls. It is real. Let's see. Next question. I moved away from the screen. I got to get back to it. Randy Lutz, what do you think about Daquan Felton? Came in over 6'4" at the Senior Bowl and looked or at the Shrine Bowl, and looked fast. Won lots of those matchups in practice. He's a big kid. If I remember correctly from the measurements, and I have those here somewhere. And he was at the Senior Bowl. Sorry, I don't know why. I saw SB and immediately went Senior Bowl. Now it's Shrine Bowl. See if I can find his measurements from them. Let's see. So Daquan Felton came in at the Senior Bowl. At the Senior Bowl measurements, he was. Damn, I hate how the NFL does this shit. He was 6'4" and 3/8. had a 6'6" and 5/8 wingspan with 33 and a quarter inch arms and had a 9.5 inch hand. That's a big damn kid. I have not necessarily loved the tape on him, but I do love the measurables. Definitely an X guy, one that will play on the outside. I want to dig into him a little bit more. I do not have him in the first 3 rounds. I do not really have him threatening the first 3 rounds. I think he's more of a late 5, early 6 developmental piece. But I can get you a better answer on that. I want to see him. I really want to see him this week at the Combine. And I'm actually checking now just to make sure he was invited, because now I think about it. Okay, I did see his name. I want to see how he runs, how fluid he is. Not necessarily all that worried about speed, but I am curious how he runs. Austin Groves, for a Detroit fan who is second to Gray Zabel, I feel like left guard is the biggest need, followed by defensive end. My guard rankings, which you can also find on the website, NFLdraft.net, I go Will Campbell, I go Tyler Booker, Marcus M'Bow, Jonas Savagnia, and Emory Jones Jr. That's my top 5 guards. Now, if you're looking for a conversion guy, Gray Zabel is number 1. Wyatt Millum from West Virginia is number 2. I apologize. Armand Mimbu is 2 if you're looking at conversion, not just as a tackle. Wyatt Millum is 3. Cameron Williams is 4. And Donovan Jackson is my 5. And that is guys that either played tackle and maybe tinkered at guard, or they're going to come into the league having played tackle and they're going to play guard. So that's my conversion, guys. Colin Green said he likes Wyatt Millum better than Zabel. I do not like Millum better than Zabel, and I'm a West Virginia guy. But I do like him. And Colin did say he has a bias against North Dakota. Let's see. I want to make sure I don't miss anything here. Ramonzo Berry, Josh Simmons shouldn't run at all. He's not going to. There are a lot. And actually, tomorrow, I'll try to get the list of guys that can't participate. They're here for the interviews. I know I have that in my email somewhere. I just got to track it down. The beauty of the scouting combine, they send you about 50 million emails for a 7-day event. And then they reference all of those emails of, hey, just remember that thing that we said in one email, and it was at the bottom line. So I have to keep good track of those. So I know I got it somewhere. I'll try to pull that for tomorrow's live stream. I will be doing another live stream tomorrow. And I apologize about the one last night. The internet went down in my house with the wind and the snow and the ice. And it didn't snow here at all, but apparently it snowed somewhere else, and AT&T throttled us back to nothing. It was like Little House on the Prairie in here for about 5 hours last night. So apologies for that. Mark Matlock, why do I like Pat Bryant so much? You're not by yourself. I heard a lot of people that like that kid. Wide receiver from Illinois. I have him as a mid-round guy. I don't dislike him. I don't love him either. I probably need to dig back into the tape a little bit and see if there's more there that I had missed. I have him as wide receiver. Let's see. Got to skip 2 lines. He is wide receiver 21 for me, which in this class is still pretty damn good because that's ahead of a couple guys that I really like, a few of which I've already mentioned in this live stream. Let's see. Andreas Pinkney said he likes Pat Bryant a lot. Can be a good wide receiver too in the league. I think he can develop into that. I don't think he's that off the jump, but I think he's a nice piece to start with, developmental piece. Pissed off Browns fan Isaiah Bond should run in the pretty low 4s. I think he's going to run at 4.2, 7, 8, 9 range. Notorious B.I.G. I don't care if Trey Harris runs a 6.05. Watch the tape. I agree with you. The league will not agree with you. If he runs slow as shit, he's going to drop. Especially because that's one of the biggest knocks that people have on him. But I agree with you. The tape on him is really good. Let's see. Great North Sports is psyched about Scattaboo to the Patriots in the latter rounds. He's also psyched about the Combine. It is an exciting time, and don't forget, at the end of this live stream, which will be happening in just a few minutes, we have a big announcement about our coverage at the Combine. Bill Workman said it's one of the best times of the year. Notorious B.I.G. said Cam Scattaboo runs identical to Taysom Hill, which I hate. I actually like Scattaboo. I think I like him more than a lot of other people do. Andreas Pinckney, Ollie Gordon at 111 for the Saints. His style fits well in more scheme. I tend to agree with you on that. I just don't think he's going to be there at 111. Bill Booty Cheek said there will be no Josh Connerly slander around these parts. As an Oregon fan, I watched him bully Abdul Carter for 4 quarters. I did not realize Bill was an Oregon fan, and I have realized his allegiances in football make every bit as little sense as mine do. I am a Florida State New York Jets fan. He is a New England Patriots Oregon Ducks fan. Bill, I have to ask, where the hell do you live? Like, there's nowhere that's even if you were in between, you're 1,500 miles from both of those. Which I'm sympathetic to because it's 10 hours either way for me to get into a stadium for Florida State or for the Jets. Ramonzo Berry said Landon Jackson reminds me of Logan Hall. On the low side, he does me too. I understand that comp. That's floor. And in April, I will be doing a series of videos on players that are floor ceiling with comps. I hate doing comps. It's not my thing, but there are some in this class that I really like, and he just so happens to be one of them. Bill Workman, Connerly's done an amazing job in the process, especially considering he's a running back that moved to tackle. I agree with you. Great North Sports. Red flags, consider the source always. Who wants you to know that information and why? That is something I haven't said in a long time. Anytime you start hearing information but it's not sourced, always ask yourself the question, who wants you to know that? Who wants you to know that? Let's see. Colin Green, guys, Mike Green is a horrible person and none of your teams should draft him. There are some reports out about Mike Green that are unsettling. I'm not going to report them because I haven't sourced them, and I will dig into them this week at the Combine. Bangus Barchi, I hope I'm saying your name correctly. What round do you think the Jets take a middle linebacker? Depends on if they lose Jamie and Sherwood. If Sherwood leaves, then I think it could become – they're not going to take one in the first round. Like, I don't think Jalon Walker is going to go there, but you could start looking let me pull up my list of linebackers here. You could get into that Carson Schwessinger, Jack Kaiser, Jamin Dumas Johnson, Cody Lindenberg tier of middle linebackers. I also kind of like the idea of I like Chris Paul Jr. a lot. We haven't talked about him nearly enough. And he's not necessarily a green dot, but he's a player that I could, depending on the scheme for Aaron Glenn, I could see him being really, really good. Let's see. Andreas Pinckney, Pierce could go as high as 8. I think the Combine interviews will clear all this shit up. I agree with you wholeheartedly. Gomaha said that's a California Condor wingspan when I was talking about Daquan Felton. Jeremy, where do you have Derek Harmon going? Okay, let's see. I can't remember where he went in the mock. I know he hasn't gone yet. I haven't gone to the Texans in the mock. That's at 57. In the second mock, he's probably going to stick about that. I am lower on him than a lot of other people are because I don't think he is this special athlete, and we're going to get into this part of the process, and you're going to find that out, and those guys tend to fall. So I would say he's in that 50 to 65 range. Notorious B.I.G., the Saints fan, said I would take Tet McMillan first round, then trade up to get James Pierce at the bottom of the first. That would be a shitload of A-pluses from me. Great North Sports said we had a bunch of people on our stream last night looking for you. Sorry about that. That was my fault. Internet went down, and I had absolutely no access to tell anyone that my internet was down. Our mobile signal was terrible, and we had no internet. So it literally like Little House on the Prairie. I just went, okay, whenever it comes back, I'll let people know. Randy Lutz asking about Chase Lunt, the offensive tackle from UConn. Lots of experience. What are your thoughts on him? Needs to bulk up, less than 300 pounds at 6'8". Do you think he can put on the weight and add the required strength? Very disciplined, only 4 penalties in 1,700 snaps. I actually like Chase Lunt quite a bit. I just think he's going to be a developmental prospect. I have him as, he is my offensive tackle 18, and he starts as a swing. So I have a little notation in my rankings of, and usually if you start as a swing, it means you have a physical limitation now. You're not strong enough. You're not big enough. Whatever the case may be, you need to get your weight down. That's usually what falls into swing, and he has that notation. I do think he can turn into a player a year or two down the line. I'm not sure he couldn't play right now. So the thing with Lunt to me is that he does have to get bigger and he does have to get stronger. Detroit fan man, glad to hear it was only a power outage and not another foot fiasco. Reply, the skipped mock. Yes, apologies. We've had a lot of shit going on around here, and so I need a few really quiet days, and I need that. Calvin Beermaster Rogers said, Jeremy's always high on North Dakota guys. I do tend to like North Dakota guys. They're just well coached. They come into the league and they're ready to play. Not always great, but they're there. Let's see. Gigi. So I heard a thing that Mykel Williams could fall to the Rams. That is very much in the realm of possibility. If that happens, what corner prospect would you like to see the Rams draft at 90? Do you think that corner from Bowling Green will be there? Yes, I will say that. And now the name's eluding me. Jordan Alodekin will be there. I think you're actually looking even further down the line than that. I would be looking at Kobe Bryant from Kansas. I'd be looking at Mello Dotson out of Kansas. Bilal Cohn from Western Michigan. Those guys kind of all fit into that tier. Quincy Riley is another one that I would really like down there. Donald Fortune from South Carolina. He's another one that I think you could potentially get that low. Or that's probably a little too low for Zy Alexander from LSU. But I like all of the guys that I just said. Bill Bootycheek said he is in Canada. He found me through Armchair's channel, and they were discussing dual citizenship and it not being easy. I did not know that. But that is a really good transition. Let me hit one more comment. And Matt said he's still trying to find a college team he can get behind. Give me just a couple months, and I will help you with that because I've been doing the legwork on a fun little game we're going to play after the draft. So we're looking into May and June ahead of the college football season. Bill Workman also said, "Don't speak on Chris Paul. No one can know of that player until he is a Panther." A lot of people know about him, at least the ones that are pulling the trigger on these picks. And I missed a question. I apologize. Austin Groves, Donovan Edwards to New Orleans in the 4th, 5th would be Kamara 2.0. What are your thoughts? I am in like with Donovan Edwards, not love. I think he was propped up by a really good Michigan team. Late 4, early 5, that's about the right range for me. I have a lot of running backs that fall into that. Would he be Alvin Kamara 2.0? Now that I can't necessarily say yes on. I don't think he is dynamic. He is as dynamic of a athlete as Kamara, but I think he's a very talented football player. Bill Workman said, Kobe Bryant, one of the best names in the draft this year. Randy Lutz, what offensive lineman can help himself the most at the combine, whether it be medical, interview, or in the drills? Josh Simmons. Josh Simmons passes the medical and gets unabashed wave along with flying colors, I could easily see him going in the top. I want to say 10, but I'm going to safely say 15. Because it seems like everybody loves him. They're just scared to death of his medical. What other guys can help themselves? Holland Pierce is a name that came to my mind immediately, and I'm having to cross-verify that these guys have actually been verified, have been invited. Holland Pierce will be there. I need to see agility-wise. That kid was 470 pounds at one point when he walked on at Rutgers. I think he can help himself a lot at the combine. I have these notated, so if you're wondering why it's taking me a second, I'm bouncing back and forth. Carson Vinson and Jackson Slater, that's two guys that I really think if they have elite weeks, and I'm verifying that they're there. There's Carson Vinson and there's Jackson Slater. I think they can get into the day 2 discussion. That's how high on those two I am. And he asked, do you like Ozzie Trapillo? I do. I think Ozzie Trapillo can be a nice movable piece on an offensive line. So that's my short answer to offensive linemen. I mean, there are so many that I could sit here for the next hour doing this. Basically, any center. Can any center put themselves in can they distance themselves from the field? And I'll give you a name. I have not verified. He is actually not here. So Thomas Perry from Middlebury is a guy that I was looking forward to seeing. He is not here. So, and then just looking up and down, the Eli Cox jumps off the page to me as guys that can help themselves. Chase Lunt, who we were talking about earlier. Jonah Monheim. Some people like him way better than I do, but I think he can help himself. And then I'll go Cameron Williams from Texas. I think there's a lot of good raw there, but you got to get over some less than awesome tape. Okay. All right. So we are to the end of this live stream, and I guess that means it's time for announcement time. Let me get a sip of my beverage and a little snoot off my douche flute. So if you're here 57 minutes into a live stream, you know that next week I will be live from Indianapolis for the 2025 NFL Scouting Combine. Unfortunately, my radio partner at Richard Tank Spencer IV has suffered an injury. He will not be able to go. Indianapolis is a very walking city. It's a very walkable city. So we were kind of in a rock. We were kind of at a spot where we were between a rock and a hard place of who could we possibly get to fill in for Tank, and who would be so. All right, so let me take a step back. When we file for credentials with the NFL, I'm what's called A accredited with the NFL. So basically what I do is I fill out a form saying I need X number of credentials. For the first 2 years, basically, I have just filled out for Tank and myself. For whatever reason, at the Super Bowl, I started filling out open-ended. I don't know why I did it. I didn't mean to do it. It just kind of happened, and it works out great for this because now Tank can't go. So when I got approved for the Combine a few days ago, I got an open-ended Combine invite, a media credential for anybody that works within Green Media Group, within Green Spencer Media, within iHeartRadio Asheville. Anybody that I could tie into that in any way was available to have a media credential. And I had one thought, and I am really glad that this guy is able to go. I'm going to give you a little background on this guy. He interviewed me in my basement at a house that I sold 3 years ago. I did his show. He has grinded his ass off working a full-time job, trying to make, this dream a reality. I think he's one of the best grinders in this fucking business. I think he's one of the best guys in this business. and I've never even met him in person. But I am very excited to announce that my cohort at the Combine, my partner in crime for Indianapolis next week, will be our very own David Smith of Armchair Commentary. David will be joining me in Indianapolis. We will be rehashing the Mullet Man and the Canadan in Indiana. I just came up with that off the top of my head. David and I will be doing the draft, or doing the Combine all together. Very excited to have him. There's literally nobody in podcasting, in any of the things that we do, however you want to phrase it. I hate it when people call me a podcaster. I think he is so much more than that, and I am so fucking excited to be able to be there when, you know, we walk up to the media workroom in Indianapolis and he says his full name, David Smith, and they hand him a credential with a very solid headshot on it, by the way, because I have his professionally done headshot that is on his credential, because I had to do this shit really fast this morning. But yes, we will have Mullet Man Canadan in Indiana. It's been a long time coming, as he just said in the chat. It's been a long time coming. I'm super excited. I'm going to make a formal announcement on social media. That'll probably be tomorrow. I'm trying to keep it away from the draft content because I don't want to get lost. And right now we are on super the wrong side of the Facebook algorithm. So I want to make sure David gets his shine. And I'm super, super excited that it is one of those great, like, God looking out for you moments of I hit buttons the wrong way for the Super Bowl, and then I just did it again. And I realized, hey, they'll give you an open-ended one. Why would you not do that? So I'm so excited to have Dave coming with me. I was not nervous about traveling by myself. My family was very nervous about it, but I've done a lot of things by myself over the years. But I'm so excited to have somebody that I know will absolutely crush it with the content and will love every minute of this. I'm so glad that I get to share this with David Smith. Congratulations to Great North Sports. We will be doing some overlap while we're there. We're going to be tying all these things together. It is very helpful for things that Dave and I have been talking about for years to be in the same room. And we have literally never been in the same room before. But we're about to do it for a week in Indianapolis. And it's all for you guys. We're all the content for the Combine, all of the workouts, all of the things. So excited to bring it to you. Mullet Man and the Canadan in Indiana this week at the 2025 Scouting Combine. All right, boys, that's an hour. I got to get back to the mock draft grind. We will have more of them coming out. We have another one coming out at 4 o'clock today, another one coming out at 8. They will come out at 8 a.m., and this is all Eastern Standard Time, 8 a.m., 12 p.m., 4 p.m., 8 p.m. every day for all the way leading up to Sunday, and then we start nothing but Combine content on Monday. We will not be live on Monday because I will be on the road, headed to meet Dave in Indiana. I got to pick him up from the airport, and then it is going to be like drinking from a fire hydrant, and I am so fucking excited about it. He said, long way from watching Senior Bowls together. Brother, I'm not going to lie to you. The first time I ever interviewed with you, I was, and I'm just going to tell this quick aside just because, you know, it's what I do. The first time I interviewed, that you interviewed me, I remember thinking that dude is going to be whatever he wants to be in this business. And I'm so glad you're doing it with us. I'm so glad that you're here as one of the headline members of this entity. Tank and I consider you one of us. You're our third. That's what we tell people all the time, is that you're our third. And I'm so glad to have you coming with us. And it is a long way from watching the Senior Bowl. Couldn't put it on the screen. We were watching it and had to time it out just like we were doing with the playoff games. So definitely a long way from that. I'm very excited. Everybody's telling me to get some sleep. I need to. I was up till 5 o'clock this morning. I died on my couch at some point. I woke up completely lost as to where I was, and then I couldn't get off the couch for like an hour. And then the phone started ringing and it got sideways. And that's when we started credentialing people. And it was an aggressive morning. I got a little sleep. I need significantly more. But watch a mock draft, run through the playlist, like it all, subscribe. If you're commenting, you're already subscribed. And we appreciate all of you. I will be back tomorrow, 12 o'clock. We will do a mock at 12 just like we did today. And then at 12:15-ish, I'll get going with Combine Preview, defensive players to watch. I'm Jeremy Green of ESPN Radio Asheville's The Sportsocracy and NFLDraft.net. This has been a breakdown of players to watch at the 2025 NFL Scouting Combine, the offensive edition. Tomorrow, we go defensive. I will see you guys tomorrow.
Devil in a red dress.